This iPad Pro has been my go-to portable computing device for 18 months, and during that time, it was a pretty solid laptop replacement, but there was one fatal flaw, and that's that I couldn't work on my video editing projects when I was out and about, because Apple had never brought Final Cut Pro to the iPad, and I just didn't get on with the other video editing apps that were out there. So of course, a couple of months after I buy a MacBook Pro to edit videos on the go, Apple release Final Cut Pro onto the iPad. So let's take a look at the iPad Pro's version of Final Cut Pro and ask whether it shifts the debate slightly on whether an iPad can truly replace your laptop. One of the reasons that I've always struggled with video editing on the iPad was that I never really got on with the touch controls on apps like LumaFusion and even DaVinci Resolve. Now with Final Cut Pro on the iPad, Apple seems to have found a smart solution to this, and it's in the form of this jog wheel on the right hand side of the dashboard. And it looks like it's going to give you a lot of precision that the likes of LumaFusion has often been lacking, in my opinion. Of course, Apple is making a big deal of using the Apple Pencil as well to manage your timeline, and I imagine that the way they implement that will be better than in any other app, just because it is the Apple ecosystem. But there's actually a much cooler Apple Pencil feature on the Final Cut Pro app, and that is live drawing. So with live drawing, you can basically scribble onto your timeline and create motion graphics or animations using your Apple Pencil. And that's so cool for people who don't have the skills or the access to something like After Effects. It will just allow you to add a lot more creative flair to your work. This is where it gets really interesting with this iPad app, because it seems like Apple have built in quite a lot of features that aren't available on Final Cut Pro. That includes this really cool scene removal mask that allows you to make cutouts of subjects without having to use a green screen. It has a really cool auto crop feature that allows you to trim the frame down to a vertical resolution that will help you to create things like YouTube Shorts or TikTok videos out of long form videos. And they've introduced some new AI voice isolation features which can really help with cleaning up the audio in your track. Final Cut Pro has been lagging behind other apps like DaVinci Resolve and Premiere Pro for quite a while now in terms of its AI features. So it's interesting to see Apple put emphasis on this for the iPad version. It's also great to see that they've made a real effort to integrate things like the iPad's camera into this workflow, and we're genuinely at the point now where you could film, produce and ship an entire video on your iPad, and it would be a pretty high standard. So already I can see that if this is your first entry into video editing, or you just really like a touch environment, Final Cut Pro on the iPad is going to be pretty sick. Whether it can actually replace a computer for someone who's used to working on one though, that is another question, and I think there are a few limitations that stop someone like me actually shifting over most of their workflow to an iPad. The first big problem is that there's no external hard drive support for the iPad. To put that into context, my iPad Pro has 124 gigabytes of storage. Even as someone who doesn't film hugely taxing videos, my Final Cut Pro libraries and projects often far exceed that amount. So it's clear that if I wanted to truly do these kind of videos on an iPad, I'd have to get a much higher internal storage, and that obviously adds a lot of cost onto your purchase. And the fact that I can't even pull in files from an external SSD is a real shame, because you can do that on LumaFusion. I don't understand why you can't do it on an iPad. One thing that I was really hoping I would be able to do would be to complete a project in Final Cut on my MacBook, ship it over to my iPad, and then add in some of those live drawing animations to just add that finishing touch. But unfortunately, you're not going to be able to do that. You will be able to transfer projects from your iPad over to your MacBook to complete them there, but the fact that it's not completely cross-compatible is a bit of an issue. And right now, although they are coming soon, there's no third-party plugins. So if you have invested in plugin packs from the likes of Motion VFX, you aren't going to be able to use them on your iPad Pro. So you will have to actually ship them over to your computer to actually finish some of your projects. Finally, one of the things that is a bit prohibitive to a lot of people is that this will come with a subscription fee. It's going to be £4.99 per month in the UK, or £49.99 if you pay on an annual basis. And while that's not a huge amount, it is just one additional cost that you might not be willing to pay. While this is a departure from Apple's one-off payment for Final Cut Pro on the MacBook, it is around half the price of what it costs to buy DaVinci Resolve outright for the iPad. So I'd say it's a fair price if you want to kind of just get into video editing. But of course, not everybody can add that additional £5 to their monthly outgoings. Although I'm not going to complain too much because I think this is a pretty cool update from Apple. And I love the fact they just gave it to us in a random press release the other day. It makes me really excited to find out what they've got in store for us at WWDC. And because they have put such an emphasis on AI features for us in this iPad release of Final Cut Pro, I really hope they come up with a cool Mac update for us in June. When it comes to whether I regret picking up a MacBook, the answer is still no. I absolutely love my MacBook Pro and it's gotten me through editing so much more quickly over the past couple of weeks. So I am still loving it. But if you want to see my full experience of what it was like to shift to an iPad in the first place, check out this video here and I'll see you in a bit.